Good morning and welcome to day 6 of Bayern Munich's winter training camp in Doha. It's the 5th day of training after 1 day of traveling. Overall, we are looking at the 8th training session and as you can see, some unusual pictures from what we're usually accustomed to in Munich. We're not at the beach, we're still at the Aspire Academy in Doha, and the team, or should I say the coaches, have chosen to conduct quite a few warm-up sessions in the sand pit here, some stabilization exercises, a little more friction as the players warm up here, as the players conduct their exercises here in this sand pit. That's proven, I suppose, obviously a valuable little asset, a valuable little addition to this training camp. As you can see, several assistant coaches here around the players conducting these warm-up exercises. As I mentioned, it's been 7 sessions so far. We've had 7 sessions so far. This is number 8. And if you've been following our output on the various channels, on our website, on our social media channels, you'll probably have seen some interviews, some news, some quotes from the players who have all said, on the one hand, it's fun to be here, it's exciting to be here, great facilities, great training opportunities. On the other hand, also some fairly intense work here. The legs are a little tired, as I said, with the exception of 2 days ago. That was the 6th of January. There have been 2 training sessions each and every day here in Doha, and the players really are, it's really a joy to watch how the players are passionate, how motivated, how focused they are, how they join in, how loud it is on the training pitch when the players conduct exercises or compete in various training games against each other. We will have a press conference with Carlo Ancelotti in 2 days' time on the last day of this winter training camp in Doha, where I'm sure he's going to comment on that as well. But again, the players have confirmed that, as always, really, it is a very intense but also a fun, very fruitful and beneficial winter training camp here. Again, Manuel Neuer yesterday in the press conference, Xabi Alonso, you can see Robert Lewandowski here. I think, if you've been following our media output, you will have heard most of these players comment already. I see Franck Ribéry. He will be in the press conference later on today at 1:30 local time. That's 11:30 Central European time. Along with Philipp Lahm, the captain, will speak there for the first time, at least publicly. We had a little exclusive interview with him recently. Of course, with all the good news, the intense training sessions, the motivation that the players have shown, the fact that Javi Martinez was able to return after he fell ill, the same went for Renato Sanchez and Sven Ulreich. We have had one bad item of news, one bad piece of news yesterday, as Thiago was forced to discontinue the training session, and in fact Thiago won't be able to join in the next couple of training sessions either. He's going to stay here in Doha, as far as I know, testament, I think, to the on the one hand, of course, the great medical staff here, who obviously consider it best to train with him here. On the other hand, Thiago also seems to be in fairly decent spirits despite his injury, and the fact that he chose to stay here and not return home, I think, says quite a bit about the team spirit in Munich as well. We'll actually have him in an interview tomorrow. We'll talk to him. You'll find, I'm sure, at least we're going to try to have a couple questions for him ready for you in our news program tomorrow. So let's sit back and enjoy these unusual pictures. It's very sunny here, beautiful weather. I'd say somewhere in the 80s Fahrenheit, about 22 to 25 degrees Celsius. So absolutely perfect, ideal conditions here at the Aspire Academy in Doha. Let's watch some football players sweat for a few minutes.
jeder von euch, also jeder, der eine Zaunfahne hat,
potenziell.
So, it seems as if the sandpit warm-up program is over. Players return to the pitch. As always, we have quite a few fans here visiting the Aspire Academy for these public training sessions. Fantastic opportunity, of course, for local and regional fans to watch the Bayern players train up close and personal. We actually have a couple of fans from Germany here as well who traditionally visit Bayern Munich here, and I suppose you could also call them a couple of ground hoppers here as well. There are, of course, a few professional football teams, not only this week, but in the previous and upcoming weeks training here as well. Carlo Ancelotti and Hermann Gerland and the Bayern entourage, not the only ones who realize just how good the facilities, how good the environment is here. On the far right, we have Holger Badstuber. No news yet about his future. You probably heard there are some rumors about a loan spell, possibly. Honestly, we can't give you any other information either, apart from the fact that Carlo Ancelotti said that if Holger Badstuber decides to stay, then Bayern Munich are going to be really happy with that. If he decides he wants to try and go out on a loan spell to get a little bit more match practice in the second half of this season, then that's fine with Bayern Munich too. Most likely scenario in that case would be that Holger Badstuber actually extends his contract with Bayern Munich and then leaves on a loan spell. But again, there's absolutely no news there whatsoever. No news also in the contract extensions of Arjen Robben and Xabi Alonso. We spoke to the players. They were in the international media press conferences, and we had the opportunity to talk to them as well. And it's always the same, really, every year. The players right now seem genuinely not to care. They're all such professionals, and particularly in the case of Arjen Robben and Xabi Alonso, of course, they know this is such an important week. They have to focus on training. They want to focus on training. They're well aware of how important this is. They're also well aware of how fortunate they are as German football players to have this winter break, so contract extensions are not on their mind right now. That might change as soon as the season recommences, obviously, but right now players like Philipp Lahm in particular know just how important this is. Davide Ancelotti here at the front of your screen. Fitness coaches talking to Philipp Lahm in the background. You can see it's really a very good mood. We've had really only positives come out of the team this week, maybe with the exception of the first couple of minutes after each and every training session where the players do feel the heat, feel the strain. But overall, again, very productive week so far. I'm sure Carlo Ancelotti is extremely happy with what's been going on. Irrigation, extremely important before, in particular, of course, before and also after the training sessions, even during the training sessions. Not sure if we'll see that today. We might possibly, though, that even during training sessions, sometimes the players shift from one part of the pitch to the other, and as they do, immediately some helpers appear here who spray water all over the pitch. Let's see now what Carlo Ancelotti and his coaching staff have in store for us. As I said, several fans here hoping for, of course, an entertaining training session. We're hoping for a productive, beneficial one. So we're quite obviously still in the warm-up phase here, following some strengthening and stabilization exercises for the muscles in the sandpit. The players warming up a little bit. Again, this looks easy, looks relaxed, and I'm sure it is if you're a professional football player. Don't underestimate the heat here in Doha, though. It is a very hot day, particularly in the blazing sun. I'm sure as we progress, we'll see some close-ups of the players, and you'll see the toll that these exercises are taking. At the front of our screen here is obviously on the left Douglas Costa talking now to Fabian Benko, one of 5 youngsters who have done a very good job so far. And here is Kingsley Coman for the first time in team training this week. Let's see if he can actually conduct the full training session and participate in all the exercises, but that's obviously really, really good news for Bayern. So far, not even able to conduct individual training sessions every day. He came here and was also ill, just like Sven Ulreich and Javi Martinez. He was unable to conduct full team training. In the case of Martinez and Coman, it was in fact a cold, or they fell ill. In the case of Sven Ulreich, he'd been suffering from a groin injury, but it seems as if Coman's back in training now for the first time today fully. So as one door closes, so to speak, with the injury of Thiago, one door reopens. That's great news again for Carlo Ancelotti to have Coman back here in the squad. Hermann Gerland, by the way, at the center of our screen, stepping up now. We've noticed that, of course, a lot more involved from what we can tell during the training sessions, and a lot more vocal than he was. And why? Obviously because of the departure of Paul Clement to Swansea. Philipp Lahm, again, later on in the international media press conference. We'll have highlights of that on our website later on for you. Manuel Neuer just now. Again, this was Fabian Benko. Here's David Alaba. We have users ask us time and again why Manuel Neuer and the goalkeepers actually join in these exercises. It's something, I suppose, that didn't start with Manuel Neuer, but has become more and more important with Manuel Neuer. Here's Tom Starke on the screen. The sweeper-keeper element that Manuel Neuer, if not introduced, then certainly emphasized throughout his goalkeeping career, has become so important that nowadays goalkeepers always train in passing exercises at the beginning of training. When I say always, it depends to a certain extent also on what Toni Tapalovic, the goalkeeping coach, has planned. But generally speaking, goalkeepers join in these passing exercises because simply they need to be able to pass, and we've kept a keen eye on the goalies, and not only in Doha but of course throughout the season. Nowadays most goalkeepers are actually pretty decent football players. If you think back to times of goalkeeping icons at Bayern Munich like Raimund Aumann, Jean-Marie Pfaff, or even Oliver Kahn most recently, you'll agree, I think, that they could do all kinds of things very well indeed, just not one thing, and that is play football. Here again, Kingsley Coman, first time in a training session in Doha. Great news there for Ancelotti. As mentioned, Hermann Gerland, a lot more involved now. What he's doing now is exactly what Paul Clement used to do. And in case anyone's worrying about the departure of Paul Clement, then you're not aware just of how experienced and how good of a coach Hermann Gerland is. He knows exactly what he's doing, particularly in training, organization training, coordination. Something, by the way, that Manuel Neuer commented on yesterday, and he's not the only player who said this winter break is so valuable for Bayern Munich, and not only for Bayern Munich, for teams, for top teams in general, simply because, and let's go back to Bayern Munich specifically now, they really didn't have that much time to train as a team all season long. Sounds a bit weird that a football team doesn't have any time to train, but if you think back to the summer, we had the European Championships, we had players like Mats Hummels return or join the Bayern training squad 10 days before the first competitive game of the season. That's how many days only Manuel Neuer, Thomas Müller, Mats Hummels and so on only had to train before the first competitive game. And between August and December, Bayern Munich only had a total of 3 to 4 weeks without a midweek game. And everyone who watches football knows midweek games mean you don't train tactics really. What you do is you prepare for the game, you prepare specifically for the opponent, then you have a day or two of regeneration, and then you prepare for the next opponent. So combine all of this with the element of Ancelotti, a new coach at the club. Neuer again commented yesterday that this is a great opportunity for Bayern Munich to find out a little more about what Carlo Ancelotti actually wants them to do. He said, we can train specifically the details of what we are supposed to do, even if this is now a passing exercise. But we've seen a lot of tactical exercises. We've seen Ancelotti being very, very vocal indeed in and Hermann Gerland in the past training sessions. And again, the winter break, particularly this season, every other season after a major tournament, invaluable opportunity for the Bayern stars to practice, to train, to come together, to fine-tune their cooperation on the pitch. just now Mats Hummels, and then again Sven Ulreich, now Tom Starke. As you can see, all the goalkeepers involved in these passing exercises. I haven't seen 16-year-old youngster Christian Früchtl yet. It's possible that he might already be training with Toni Topalovic. This here is Raphael Obermeier, one of the 5 youngsters who've joined Bayern. It's Raphael Obermeier, Marco Friedl, who you might know, Fabian Benko, already a pro officially at Bayern Munich, and again then Christian Früchtl, Adrian Fein, pretty new in the training squad. But again, Raphael Obermeier also one of the players who regularly join in the training sessions at Bayern Munich, particularly during international breaks when the Bayern coaches are forced to train with a diminished squad. Here's Arjen Robben, talked about the importance of the training camp, talked about the importance of the training camp specifically for him. Great news, of course, for the Bayern fans to have Robben and Ribéry in full team training all week long. There, by the way, just now was Christian Früchtl, so he's indeed joining in these passing exercises. Robert Lewandowski, Bayern's goal-scoring machine, has had a great week of training in fantastic spirits. Same goes for Ribéry. Here he is. Again, with those players over the age of 30, and particularly those important players over the age of 30, every day which they can join in is just a good day for Bayern Munich. Manuel Neuer, by the way, who just crossed our screen here, commented on that and said players like Robben, like Ribéry, like Lahm, like Alonso, he's a fan of those players. He's been playing with them for years. He's been watching them for even longer. And he says, I want to play with those guys for as long as possible. Really valuable assets to the Bayern squad. He was obviously asked what he thought about the Robben contract extension, and says, any one of those players are, in my opinion, welcome to stay for as long as they can. Same goes for this guy here, Arturo Vidal. I suppose not as outspoken, not someone who's as present in the media as some others, due also to language issues. But for one, that's going to change now that Uli Hoeneß has said he wants the players to focus a little more on their German. And number 2, and that's what's most important, obviously, Arturo Vidal has delivered in the important games, in particular last season. And this season already a real team leader. Same goes for Javi Martinez, who said he was very happy with the first half of the season. I asked him, you might have seen it in our Q&A, if he actually considers himself a defensive midfielder now or a defender at Bayern Munich, and he said he genuinely doesn't care. He'll play as a winger if necessary.
Lässt drauf auf Arjen, Arjen spielt ihn an und er läuft mit dem Ball am Fuß nach da. Und dann gehst du nach da und so weiter. Also, pass auf Levi, pass auf Levi, Levi auf.
This scene, just another confirmation of how outspoken Hermann Gerland is. We might experience some sound problems here as we go through this training session. You'll have to forgive us for that here at the Aspire Academy, as great, and as modern as these facilities are, training pitches are very close to the team hotel, sometimes a little far depending on wind for our internet connection or for our overall connection. So if we do experience some audio problems every once in a while, please forgive us for that. We'll be working on solving that problem as quickly as possible. Most importantly, we can see the players train here, and that's what we want to see. The camera, by the way, now you're looking at Javi Martinez, is pretty much exactly where the fans are sitting. This gives you a little bit of an idea of just how close the visiting fans can be here. As you can see at the front, a couple of camera people, a couple of international journalists, and then only 2 or 3 yards behind them, there's a little makeshift group of stairs and a stand, basically, in which, yeah, I'd say each day there are a couple hundred fans that come here and watch these public training sessions. If you are in the area, don't come tomorrow morning. It's the only morning off of the entire week. Tomorrow morning, no training session. Tomorrow afternoon, then again, a non-public training session. And then on the 10th, I believe, in the morning is another and the final public training session for fans to be able to visit. Joshua Kimmich here on our screen. Great first half of the season for that young man. In 13 Bundesliga games, 4 goals and 1 assist. In 5 Champions League games, 3 goals, and also then another assist in 2 DFB Cup matches. Unusual how many goals he scored in the first half of the season. Xabi Alonso was asked yesterday about Joshua Kimmich, and he said he really thinks he's a great player. He's much more experienced now than he was a year ago. A year ago here in Doha, Kimmich was still a very young player, inexperienced player. In the meantime, he's played the Euros, he's played Champions League football, he's done very well indeed, and he's also become an important part of the Bayern squad. And I may say that from my impressions of the training camp so far, Kimmich has done an outstanding job here and has been praised really by all of his teammates. This guy, Toni Tapalovic, goalkeeping coach, he might just grab the group of goalkeepers in a minute here for some individual training that would be typical for the Bayern training sessions. Again, at the beginning, in the warm-up, the stabilization, strengthening exercises, and then passing exercises, the goalkeepers join in. On the far right here is a very tall young guy, Christian Früchtel, and then usually there are some other exercises or games in which the players then separate from the goalkeepers, unless the goalkeepers, of course, are involved in competitive football exercises. We'll see what happens today. Yeah, just now here. That was a good impression for you of how close the fans are.
Der den Ball hier empfängt, der muss tiefer sein. Er spielt ihn an und dann kann der ohne Probleme das spielen. Aber wenn du auf einer Höhe bist, dann geht das nicht mehr. Bleib hier stehen und du passt den Ball sauber. Den Ball dahin. Hier bleiben.
So again, in case you're wondering, and it might have something to do with my specific connection here, if you're not hearing atmosphere for a couple minutes here, then your computer or your connection isn't broken or damaged in any way. Again, we're experiencing some, I wouldn't call them technical problems, it's something to do with the wind and indeed with some sand blowing in every once in a while that might disrupt our connection, but again, the picture is stable and strong, and that's most important. Let's see, I think the goalkeeper is still there, but as you can see in the background already, again, some of the helpers here are watering the pitch. Seems to me as if we'll have some goalkeeping exercises there. This is Holger Broich, head of fitness, or one of the fitness coaches. Very important week for them as well, or it's important that they're here. Although, having said that, I had the opportunity to talk to some of the medical staff, to some of the fitness coaches, and they're all really happy with how things are going. If you look back and think back to the last couple of years, and I know that most of you have been Bayern fans for a long time and have been watching us in Doha year in, year out, you'll remember that we always had reports about all the different injured players who were in the gym, working on recovery, and so on and so forth. Fortunately, that's not really the case this time around. We had Coman in the gym a couple of days. Now we have an injury with Thiago, but by far and large, everyone's on board, and that's just the best news for this winter training camp 2017.
Oder wir gucken davon, wo die Allianz ist. Ja?
Xabi Alonso at the age of 35. Several teammates would be happy to see him extend his contract. He was in the press conference yesterday, I believe, and talked about how, again, he's not focused at all on that. He hasn't even thought about it, he said, and it sounded fairly believable that he's really not focusing on his distant future, but on doing as good a job here in the training camp as he can. As an experienced man who's had so many different training camps throughout his career, he knows this is where you lay the foundation, this is where the basics are trained, and where you really get the team in the right position and in the right not only frame of mind but frame of physical condition to do a good job for the second half of the season. And the start of the second half of the season is going to be important. Bayern Munich have two test matches, if you so will, playing the Telekom Cup on January 14th in Düsseldorf, with a semi-final against Düsseldorf, and then immediately afterwards the match for third place, or later on the final. That's going to be the only test game that Bayern Munich play, apart from the one in 2 days here at the Aspire Academy against Eupen. And then on January 20th, we'll have already the first Bundesliga game of the new year with Freiburg. As you can see, every once in a while we have some connection difficulties, but luckily so far only for a couple of seconds. Again, Freiburg is on the 20th, and then a couple days later already the game against Werder Bremen, and then mid-February the Champions League starts as well. Wolfsburg coming in the DFB Cup. That is on February 2nd, following the Schalke game, the first, I suppose, top match of the second half of the season on February 4th. And when that begins, that basically kicks off the busy schedule again on February 4th. Schalke, February 7th, Wolfsburg home match in the DFB Cup. February 11th, Ingolstadt in the Bundesliga, then 4 days later Arsenal, then Champions League, and then the next top game already in the Bundesliga against Hertha BSC Berlin. So Xabi Alonso was right when he said the start to the second half of the season is very important for Bayern Munich, because with 1 or 2 games to slowly kick off the year 2017. The schedule will become very busy, very fast, and then Bayern Munich need to deliver. Now is the time for the big games, the crunch games for Bayern. It seems as if we're going to have a slight change of pace here, some new exercises. Let's see what Ancelotti and Hermann Gerland, as well as Davide Ancelotti, have planned for the next exercise here. As I said, they're not fooling around with the water here. It's really hot. I'd say probably more over 25 degrees Celsius in the sun. And so far, if you think it's been a fairly easy training session for the players, you'll see now some speed. And if you pay attention, it is quite interesting to see just how fast the Bayern players play. If you regularly watch other top European clubs train, then you won't be that surprised. But it is quite amazing to see, not only, but also because of these temperatures, just how fast the Bayern players get that ball back and forth here, with what intensity they play, how outspoken they are. Unfortunately, we can't hear that right now, but we'll see the passion, the motivation, and the focus in all of these exercises as they unfold.
Come on.
If you've been watching Bayern training sessions, you'll have to forgive me. Occasionally when we see these exercises, I do repeat myself. If you pay attention, again, there's a lot of players here on the small space. This is typical for training sessions, not only under Ancelotti, but this was also the case under Jupp Heynckes and under Pep Guardiola. It's all about giving the players as little time and space as possible, and you will see that whenever a player is in possession, how immediately at least one, if not two players, storm towards him and attack him. So this is all about holding onto possession, recovering possession, finding solutions in little time. And this is where Carlo Ancelotti usually gets involved and says, faster, faster, faster. We're going to have a little break here. You can see there's discussions going on between the players. It's hot even for Ancelotti, who's not involved in these exercises. But speed is all about. Speed is what Carlo Ancelotti is all about. Of course, precision, but there's no holding on to the ball. It's all about one-touch football, passing combinations very quickly to find, again, the right solutions under pressure. In the background, we just saw Marco Friedl, and I can say this is pretty much the same every year as well. It's fascinating to watch these young players. They make mistakes. They make more mistakes than the professionals do. Of course, you'll see Arjen Robben, Philipp Lahm, Xabi Alonso, and so on excelling at these exercises. But it is impressive to see the passing game, the passing skills that these young players have that come out of the youth ranks. Of course, they've been practicing these things all of their life, but they have some very good skills indeed, and can, by far and large, join in these exercises without being a nuisance, should I say, without being unable to be a valuable part of whatever team. Again, here you can see it. Whenever anyone's in possession, there are 2-3 players storming at him, making life as difficult as possible. And that's simply because there's no space here for the players to operate, forcing the team in possession to play one-touch football pretty much. And we'll see just how good the Bayern players are at that. Knowing what to do with the ball before you receive it. That's, I suppose, the art of the modern game, particularly in the midfield, but it's becoming more and more important all over the pitch. And that's what these exercises do. You'll see 2 touches are pretty much the maximum that these players get here. Another little break now. Once again, I hope you'll agree when you watch this. The passion comes across quite well, even if we can't hear how outspoken the players are. Again, you'll have to forgive us. Building an impromptu setup for a live training here, thousands of miles away from Munich, isn't easy for the tech staff. We're quite happy that we actually managed to get these live pictures across anyway. But I hope it comes across here just how intense these training sessions are, and how passionate, how concentrated, how focused the players are during these sessions. And every once in a while, a little bit of a close-up shows us that the players are indeed feeling it, that the players are feeling the strain of these training sessions. Again, this is another training session 1 of 2 today. Later on at 5 o'clock local time, we'll have the second one. Usually in those sessions, a little more tactical exercises behind closed doors. But those are just as intense nonetheless. Carlo and Davide Ancelotti just now on your screen, and it's no coincidence there that they looked pretty happy with what's going on. Renato Sanchez, on the other hand, didn't seem too happy here. Again, sliding challenge. That's once more no coincidence that it's Rafinha who's one of the players who excels in training, but he's not the only one who takes this super seriously. While the Bayern players by far and large are really friendly. Holger Badstuber, what a challenge again, to give you just an idea of how intense, how serious these players are taking it. Next one, while the players are really friendly, easy to work with from a journalist's perspective, if a player at Bayern Munich loses a training match, you want to give him a wide berth for a couple of minutes at least, give them some time to come down. They are such competitive athletes. If you've been following various players on Twitter, you'll know there's all kinds of tweets commenting on who won, crossbar challenges, competitive games. Thomas Müller, even in the international press conference, said that while he wants to speak German to everyone, he does switch from language to language because he wants results. He wants to win the games in training, and they are indeed very seriously about it. Here we have some goalkeeping training now. The goalkeeper is of course not part of the exercise that we've been watching just now. Sven Ulreich with the ball, Tom Starke here, Toni Tapalovic in the background, Bayern's goalkeeping coach, the man who came from Schalke with Manuel Neuer, conducting these sessions. The goalkeeping group consists of 4 goalkeepers: Tom Starke, Sven Ulreich, young talent Christian Früchtl, and obviously the number 1 man, Manuel Neuer. Manuel Neuer, by the way, played every game this Manuel Neuer, by the way, played every game apart from one in the first half of the season. Sven Ulreich, a bit unlucky there to play the 2-3 defeat against Rostov, although he wasn't to blame for the goals Bayern Munich conceded. But Carlo Ancelotti, like Guardiola before, not a coach who likes to switch his goalkeepers around. I suppose if you have Manuel Neuer as your number one goalkeeper, he does make that decision difficult. Robbery, as they're called in combination by the fans next to each other. I have to keep commenting on that because it's something we weren't able to see for a while, I suppose. Last year, not a good year, particularly for Franck Ribéry, but Robin had some injury problems as well. This season, on and off, they were together on the pitch, and each one alone, just invaluable for Bayern. This is Christian Früchtl, still only 16 years old. He turns 17 soon. Second time in Doha. He was quite the sensation last year at I think 6'5" and 15 years old. He's been training with Toni Tapalovic forever, hoping one day to fill in the footsteps of this man. I spoke about players who don't like to lose in training games. Neuer is a prime example. Really friendly guy, entertaining, polite, outgoing, amicable, likable character in interviews, in press conferences, and just in the day-to-day meetings you have with him during training. An absolute animal, highly concentrated, determined, unhappy, completely unhappy, refuses to lose, hates losing, hates conceding even a single goal. And that's exactly what it takes to become the world's best goalkeeper. Here in the background, some individual exercises. No surprises there for Kingsley Coman. Coaches and particularly the medical staff don't want Coman to join in this kind of a game where you have tackles flying in left, right, and center, and the risk of injury. Also, the stop and go motion all the time. So Kingsley Coman, that's no real surprise, not able yet to conduct full team training with the squad, but that would probably have been premature anyway, and particularly considering how fast, how ferocious this training game is going here. And if you've been paying attention, I think this has been going on for probably 20 minutes or so. Add 25 degrees Celsius, so we're somewhere in the 80s, knocking on the door of the 90s, and it gives you a little bit of an idea of just how strenuous this is for the players. I mentioned it in the first live training session we had here, so forgive me if you are bored with this information, but I'll say it again. Arjen Robben, 10 Bundesliga games in the first half of the season, 5 goals, 4 assists. Champions League, 4 games, 1 goal, 2 assists. And the numbers don't really even do him justice. Just how dangerous he is on the pitch, I think we'll all agree. Unable, I suppose, really to play every game throughout a full season, although he said in the press conference yesterday when he feels well, he wants to play every single game. But he acknowledges that every player wants to do that Bayern Munich have a great squad, and that he needs breaks. He even mentioned yesterday, which I thought was quite amusing, that he's getting on a bit, that he's getting older, that he's not the youngest player anymore. A couple of years back, or 1 or 2 years ago, Robben probably wouldn't have been as relaxed about that, but he is now. Rafinha, I always love watching in the training sessions. He is so involved, loves being on the pitch. He's just one of these Brazilian sunshine boys. Great guy for the atmosphere in the team. He just extended his contract. A good link also between the South Americans, the Spanish-speaking players like Costa, who we just saw, like Martinez and Arjen Robben, and the German players. Just a really friendly, outgoing, communicative guy. But Martinez spoke about that in our live Q&A a couple of days ago, and it's really not an exaggeration. Bayern Munich does feel like a bit of a family. Martinez said while the Latins or the Spanish-speaking players hang out together, he says there's great ties and close ties to the Germans as well. Just a very good family, close friendship vibe in the squad. That equals good team spirit, and that makes for a passionate team. You got the assistants push the goals onto the pitch. That's good news for you, good news for me, and good news for the visiting fans, I hope. Maybe that means we'll actually see a real game of football here. Manuel Neuer's following. As always, if they do play a game here, the players, they'll do it on half of the pitch. Again, with every single game, it's all about giving the players little time, little space for them to react quickly. And if we have a game going on with goals now, you'll see even more tackles, you'll see even more passion, you'll hear even more shouts and screams on the pitch. And I think we're in for that treat. I think Carlo Ancelotti is going to provide us with a real game here. But look at how many players are on the pitch. Again, we'll have to wait and see what this exercise is exactly. But if it is a game, you've got, what, 10 against 10 on half a pitch. And so we'll see just how intense that is. Enjoy.
20 Feldspielen absolviert. Der Rekordmeister, die 8. Einheit hier in Doha. Kingsley Coman hat das Warmmachen in der Sandgrube mit absolviert und danach auch die Passübung mit der Mannschaft durchspielen können. Hat danach aber entsprechend individuell mit dem Fitnesscoach Schlumberger trainiert. Die Trainingsinhalte von Carlo Ancelotti sind ganz klar zu erkennen, nämlich das Passspiel weiter zu perfektionieren und immer wieder die Pressing-Situation in richtigen Moment auszulösen. Für Sie vor Ort im Trainingslager der Bayern, Tom Hoffmann für Sky Sport.
Dreimal hintereinander danach.
Ja.
Und dreimal hintereinander trainiert. Ansonsten war es gut.
Dann machen wir es nochmal. Mit 4 Torhütern und 20 Feldspielern absolvieren die Bayern die 8. Einheit hier in Doha. Und Kingsley Coman hat das Aufwärmen in der Sandgrube mitgemacht und danach auch komplett mit der Mannschaft die Passübung absolvieren können, ist dann aber wieder in den individuellen Trainingsbereich mit dem Fitness.
So here we have this game, just to comment on that once more. First passing exercises after the warm-up, stabilization, strengthening exercises, physical exercises, then a warm-up program, then passing exercises, and then different exercises with a lot of players on small space to practice this pressing and counter-pressing all the time, to practice how to pressure opposition, how to hold on to possession in a tight space. You can see how angry Alonso is now with the goal they just conceded. This is all part of the game, and Ancelotti does a fine job, I'll say, in really keeping the players motivated. It's a great training camp for them. There's a lot of exercises, nearly all of the exercises with the ball. If we, the older fans will remember, that used to be very different, particularly in winter training camps. You'd have players just run up and down hills all the time or run around forests to build physical strength and endurance. That's all changed completely. But this way, I think you do get better results if you look at how focused, how motivated the players are. And again, all of this is a great practice. You can see Alaba in possession here, attacked immediately by 2 players. The ball goes back and immediately there's a challenge, always a challenge on the man in possession. That's what Ancelotti wants to see, not only in training, but of course on the competitive pitch as well. Holger Badstuber, by the way, also in full team training. He's been able to conduct every exercise so far and every training session so far as I can tell at least. That's why when Carlo Ancelotti commented on him, he said he is now fit, he's now ready. Oh, nice goal here, and you can hear the applause by the fans. Wonderful goal there. So Badstuber, I think it's really up to him, because that's one of the questions that users keep asking us, of course, throughout Doha. What's going to happen with Holger Badstuber? I think Ancelotti genuinely offers that possibility to Badstuber and says if he's ready, if he or if he wants to stay, then he's fit now, he's ready for the team and can play. Having said that, with Javi Martinez and with Mats Hummels, you have 2 super strong central defenders. In the first half of the season, of course, Ancelotti also fell back on the David Alaba solution occasionally, which I'm sure wasn't the best news for Holger Badstuber, although I'm not quite sure how he felt in those specific moments. And then Boateng returns, so it's possible that Badstuber might accept this challenge and say, okay, I'm going to try my luck against the strong defense of Bayern Munich, or maybe go what's possibly maybe a more sensible route and say, hey, let's go to a smaller club, or let's go to a club that offers me a few more opportunities to play.
Ja, nachher gleich. Nach dem Training müssen wir ins Hotel fahren, dass wir spielen und dann. Okay. Ja, Geld doch wohl. Das ist selbstverständlich. Also free to air, frei empfangbar jetzt. Ein Sport von ESPN, Sport. Ja, genau. Ihr drei, seid bereit oder was?
Na, ihr. So viel ich war. Oder du?
Also ich habe jetzt wieder ein paar Leute durchgefragt, leider
Will keiner.
alle, du auch nicht.
Nee.
Ach komm, kommt jetzt.
Nein. Ich hab den Schmarrn schon. Nee,
Zwei Sätze.
ich kann nicht.
Du bist berühmt.
Das bin ich schon.
Ja, eben, ist er schon.
Hallo,
bin ja
Hollywood
schon.
ruft an.
Nee. Es muss halt jeder wissen, wo ich immer das ganze Jahr bin. Ja, das hat schon seine Gründe. Das ist nichts gegen Sky oder dich oder so, aber wenn man das ganze Jahr
Auch nicht,
so
krankgeschrieben.
unterwegs ist,
Offiziell. Alle krankgeschrieben, alle im Urlaub. Ah, daher wird er weg.
ja, es ist, wenn du viel unterwegs bist,
Ja, gut.
weißt du, es muss nicht immer jeder wissen.
Die ist eh schon vor jeder Kamera.
Ja, wenn oft die Fahne drin ist, das reicht dann schon.
Der Ortlev wollte ich auch mal sehen.
Ja.
Mit dem habe ich früher auch schon, genau. Ja.
Ja, ich auch schon. Mit deiner Kollegin? Ja, oder? Das ist die Frau, wo bei dir dabei ist. Ja, stimmt, die geht aber. Ja. Ich glaube, wir eigentlich das auch mal vorne. Du bleibst noch ein paar länger?
Ja, aber wir machen ja hier.
Und du bist schon da.
Mama? Mama? Komm mal.
Ankunft und Abfahrt. Das machen wir alles hier im Hotel dann. Jetzt dann direkt überspielen und sie wissen schon, dass wir München.
Ja, und das haben mittlerweile.
Was landet ihr?
Sicher Fragen.
Sind wir auch wieder in Abfahrt. Obwohl auf der anderen Seite ist auch entspannt, weil wenn sie dann weg sind, dann noch ein, zwei Schaltungen.
Short break again. We've had an hour and 10 minutes, little more of training so far. It's important for the coaches to take a break occasionally, or for the players to be given a break by the coaches occasionally in these temperatures. Robert Lewandowski is still smiling at the center of our screen. His team and Von Ribéry seem to be up in the lead. And yet, every player we've talked to so far has said it is hard, it is strenuous, it is intense. You can really feel your legs. I think after the second day, most players felt it. Mats Hummels said the same thing. On the 4th and 5th of January, we had 2 training sessions each day. On the 6th of January, the players had a morning session, and then the day off in the afternoon. That was good for them to catch a breath. And again, since then, the players have been going strong and training twice a day. Interesting and unusual little effect that we have here during these training sessions time and again is the muezzin, who calls in for a prayer several times a day. Again, a couple of unusual aspects time and again that, of course, I suppose we've become accustomed to over the years. But you can tell, I think, just how impressive the facilities are here at the Aspire Academy, and I hope you can get an impression of just how perfect the pitches are here. Just walking along them makes you want to change your career, makes you just want to run out and kick a ball around every once in a while. Of course, they're off limits to the fans and accompanying entourage, but it really is a facility that is in absolute mint condition in all areas. The gym facilities, swimming pools, there are all kinds of sports halls. Of course, the Aspire Academy is so big that the Bayern players don't really even use half of what's going on here, or even use really only a fraction of what is possible. But for the Bayern team, it is just ideal condition. Just now, Douglas Costa sprinted after that ball. Just another one of those little scenes, one of many little scenes that goes to show how serious the players are taking this. Manuel Neuer.
Servus.
Wir spielen Doha.
drüben in dem, gell?
Im Vierer, ja, weil
Alles klar.
die kriegen das mit der Baustelle. Die bauen da irgendwo auch für ein großes Festival.
Ich glaube, da ist wieder diese Fliegenturnier.
Ja, links und rechts riesen Bühnen, da schaut es noch aus da hinten. Aber
Okay, das bringen wir hin.
ja, aber bei 750 Leuten geht er hin.
Okay, super.
Okay.
Alles klar, danke, ja.
Ja, letzter Stand jetzt.
Okay, gut.
Und morgen trainingsfrei, oder?
Genau, stimmt.
Morgen haben wir
Montag. Montag, 9. Januar.
trainingsfrei bis 17 Uhr.
Genau.
Na gut, das Abendtraining ist ja eh.
Ja.
Okay.
Aber Vormittag haben sie frei.
Okay, gut.
Alles klar, super.
Er hat in die Hacke getreten. Nicht so positiv, gell?
This, by the way, is a prime example of why the goalkeepers are so involved in the passing exercises at Bayern Munich. And just like in real life, there are plenty of situations in which they have to use their feet and can't just hammer the ball away. It's not enough time to do that. Douglas Costa had some injury problems in the first half of the season, but says he's confident 2017 will be his year. One of the fastest players on the Bayern squad. And again, Starke under pressure. As you can see, everyone under constant pressure here. Pressing, passing, those are the two key moments, key elements for Bayern. Good goal there for Team Grey. I'm not sure if you were able to keep count, but it seems pretty close.
Besser nicht, oder?
Letzten Tage haben wir gedacht, der Mist brennt, gell? Ja. Und jetzt sind wir froh. Aber gestern ist zu Hause. Das erwarten Mittwoch 40 Grad Unterschied, oder?
Schon, oder?
That's a good attacking move to show the intensity that's in every moment here. Robin only the last man in a series of fast passes, nearly interrupted by some flying tackles. Great opportunity, of course, for the young players as well to learn from the Bayern stars. Again, Fabian Benko is a name that you might have heard before. He has a professional contract and has been part of Bayern Munich's training squad for a while now, even though he still plays for the reserves. The others, Adrian Fein, Christian Früchtel, Marco Friedl and Raphael Obermeier, so far fringe players. When I say fringe, I don't think any of them were actually part of a Bayern squad in a competitive game, again with the exception of Fabian Benko, of course. But all of those Bayern talents hoping for a spot in the Bayern Pro team. It's become so difficult for young players in recent years to make it into that squad. It's so star-studded and has just become such an unbelievably strong, extraordinary, high-quality squad. The good news for those Bayern youths, however, is that if they keep working on improving, particularly in most cases physically, there's a very, very decent chance that they can have a Bundesliga career one way or the other and possibly return to Bayern Munich later on after a few years of regular competitive football. One example that's really impressing the league right now, for instance, is Mitchell Weiser, who was always a fringe player, played for Bayern occasionally, never quite made it into the squad, but hey, he had Lahm and Rafinha and Alaba in front of him, of course, particularly Philipp Lahm. Now he's the right back and occasionally right winger for Berlin, who are one of the surprise teams and top teams in the league, and it's not as if he's occasionally playing there. He's a key player in that team. You have Heuberg, who's playing in the EPL now, even if it's not as regular as he would hope. But again, there's a lot of examples. Alessandro Schöpf for Schalke and so on and so forth. So those youth guys, they need to keep going on. Even Philipp Lahm was on a loan spell at Stuttgart before he became a regular Bayern player. We've got a few minutes left on the clock, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, another little break here, or is it the final call already? I think it's just a little break. But we've got nearly 90 minutes off the clock here, and so far in this training camp, Carlo Ancelotti hasn't been overdoing it, hasn't trained longer. Keep in mind that a lot of the players go into the gym before or after, have some individual sessions, and some of the things in training are behind closed doors, so to speak, so that we don't even get to see them, at least not get to show them. But even so, 2 90-minute sessions a day, I think, are plenty, and we can see it here in the faces and also in the jerseys of the players. It is not a holiday that the players are enjoying here. It might already be the final call. Let's stay with the players for a few more minutes, see what happens, but it's very possible that this training session is coming to a close here. Nearly 90 minutes, again, in very, very hot conditions. I'd assume that we're somewhere around 85 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. I'm sure you can look it up. I haven't done that. It's about 25, 26 degrees Celsius. And again, it's different in the sun. But I think it's the curtain call for this training sessions. We'll stay on for another minute or two, couple minutes, and show you a few more, or give you a few more impressions here of the training facilities at the Aspire Academy. But for me, it's, I think, time to say goodbye. And thank you, of course, very much for tuning in. Bayern have 2 more days of training here. Tomorrow, the early morning session has been cancelled. There's a day of rest, so to speak, a time for the players again to conduct individual exercises. Most players will be in the gym in the morning, will be working out for themselves or with the medical staff and assistant coaches. Then in the afternoon there'll be a full training session, a non-public training session. That's all tomorrow on the 9th of January, and then on the 10th of January Bayern Munich have a morning training session. Again, that's public, if not live on FCB TV, but a public one. So if you're in the region and have nothing better to do and want to see some real football stars train, then come down and watch this. It's 10:30 local time, and then in the evening, I think at about 6 p.m. there's going to be a test match played here against Eupen, a Belgian first division outfit that's also training in the area, highlights of which will be on FCB TV as quickly as possible. January 11th, then the Bayern team flies back. Then there'll be a couple of non-public training sessions in Munich on the 14th, the Telecom Cup, and that's all 6 days before the first match of the second half of the season against Freiburg. That's all for me. Thanks a lot for watching, and goodbye.